Hello, Georgia551, and a little overdue because I am very busy at work. Finally going to do a review on my LG, my new mobile phone, the LG G4, which is probably not showing up too well for you. Yeah, that's better. The LG G4, this particular model, which there's multiple types. This is the LG-H810 or 810, I forget exactly. It'll be in the description or in the video title. So, yeah, I already forgot, even though I looked it up. And I never really pay attention to that. So anyway, first things first, let's look at what comes in the box. Obviously, we got the phone. And of course, I'm showing the Spanish side, but it's the product and safety information pamphlet. Of course, your quick start guide. And promotional crap, which in my case would be AT&T based. Also, a USB cable, which of course plugs into the USB charger. And being that there is a seam in the middle, very, very tight seam in the middle, that this part is obviously interchangeable at the factory, not for you personally. So obviously, in other countries you have a different type of plug to put in there, because sometimes they do kind of make them a universal, these ends kind of universal. This you can kind of see that there is a, in person especially, you can see that this is universal and this is interchangeable, but not to the actual user. Anyway, we got that stuff as well. Now, because my videos tend to run very long, especially with specs there, and there's a crap load of them, what I'm going to do is when we get to that point, I'll get to that later, obviously. Anyway, we got your headphone jack here, and here, barely visible, is where the USB cable plugs in. Also, other cables that are available, like your TV connections and what have not, are there as well. Of course, there's the camera. Over here is the flash, or in video mode, the light to enhance dark areas. And here is the, I believe that's where the infrared laser for autofocusing in the dark is located. And there's your, both the speaker and the microphone in that position there. And of course, speaker there so you can hear the phone. And now I did see it. It does exist, yeah, right here. There's a little thing here. You can stick something in to pull off the plastic. Now the cover actually comes off fairly easy, but does stay on pretty tough. As you can kind of see, my fingernails are kind of, you know, the victim of bad habits. And even without fingernails, I am able to get this off. And of course, also in the box, I believe it's in the box. This was kind of done up at the AT&T store. So the battery, and you can see right here, there's a SIM card, only one, and the metal piece that's covering that is the micro SD card slot, which this phone can support up to 128 gigabyte card. And this is why I don't like the ones that don't have the leather back. Very cheesy, bendable plastic. By the way, this phone is not waterproof. This plastic does snap on quite easily. In fact, you can see the microphone speaker configuration there better. It's very easy. It just snap it back together. It barely sounds like it's doing anything. I mean, you can hear a little crackle here and a little there, and you got to go all the way around because it is a little hard to put on. But when it's on there, and it is even with bad fingernails, you can easily get this off. That's a plus in case you want to put in a video. I mean, an SD card or what have not. Anyway, let's just, while I talk about some things, we'll just show you the boot time. It does run on, oh, we got to hold this in there till I hear and feel the vibrator there. Yo. As you can see, it runs Android. Well, anything that's not an iPhone does, pretty much. It's running Android Lollipop, aka 5.1, at least when this came out. And it boots up fairly quickly. Of course, you get to sit through the AT&T thing if you're an AT&T customer. And in a couple seconds, there you have it. It's all booted up. It's ready to go. Now, the one thing I'm kind of surprised with is that it's an LCD screen, because as you can see, when I tilt it in various directions, you can tell there's a sweet spot. However, the sweet spot is pretty big. The contrast ratio on the screen is quite good. It's really, really good. Now, the one thing I will point out that's kind of specific, because it is a very popular game, is that the G4 phones tend to have a little issue playing Minecraft. And I'm only bringing that up because it is by far the most popular download for Android and even the iPhone. Is that now I'm going to show you some gameplay just to show you the power of the hexa-core processor, supposedly 6 inside here. Again, in the video description, you'll see a link in which has all the specs of this phone because there's just so many of them. The sound quality, well, what do you expect? It's a mobile phone and a tiny speaker. You can see the frame rate is, well, it's loading up the world, so yeah, it's going to be a little choppy. Frame rate isn't really that bad. Now, I have this rendering as far as it can humanly go, and you can probably see right now that the one flaw that this phone has is you can see that the world is rendering black from a certain distance. You can turn off animated textures to fix that, but the game looks terrible. And supposedly somebody has found a fix in which to fix that, but they never really shared how. So that makes me wonder if they're just blowing smoke or their provider T-Mobile actually has a fix. I have checked to see if there's a software update, and no, I can't find one. Alrighty, so I mean, that's the only specific thing I will bring up. Alright, let's kill that. LG, there it is in the settings. See, I was looking it up just to be sure. It's LG-H810. Kill that, done. And one of the things is that when using the phone itself, unlike Android tablets, as you can see I'm holding it wide, it does not. It will not change orientation in this phone mode. When you're playing games, if they're widescreen, you can only hold it that way, but other things, like even if we hit the phone, if we rotate it, it does have the sensor in order to do that. Surprisingly, well, actually, because you're holding the phone wrong, I can see it not working that way, and it does that way. And you got nice big buttons here. Tactile screen is very responsive. Very responsive, very easy to use. Sound quality is pretty good. And the sound quality from your call is actually pretty good as well, although your voice may be slightly muted because The microphone is in the back, and I'm hitting buttons. And of course, I'm hitting the plus button there. And of course, the keys are basically in the touch screen. Now, if you get sausage fingers like I do, and even when I was very skinny, I always had giant fingers. These are a little hard to hit. This is a 5.5-inch screen. So I could imagine a smaller phone or even a 6-inch, it might be easier, but a little hard to do. Probably a stylus for the bigger fingers to do this, although I don't do this that often. Again, very responsive. This is very quick. Oh, and by the way, these phones are capable of dual displays. That is, you can run more than one app, 2 at a time. Those, when you window up, when you see the crosshair thing like that, that means it's one that you can run side by each. And again, in phone mode, you're only relegated to one particular orientation of holding it. Very responsive. Like I said before, it comes with bloatware. Beware of that. And of course, you hit that, you get the all the apps that it comes with. A lot of these I probably could get rid of if I don't need them. Anyway, get rid of that. Like I've also mentioned, it has a camera here, and you can hear that the volume is pretty strong. Minecraft is kind of a weak sounding game anyway. And if you don't like how loud or soft this is, you got this rocker switch. So if you hit this one, it raises the volume. Hit this, lowers the volume. Raise. And it gives a little tone to give you an idea of the volume. And we got a high-end camera over here, which, let's hit things we don't. Okay. Yeah, the sensitivity is a little too good at times. Okay, we got the camera right here. I got it in selfie mode right now. Yay, I look wonderful, don't I? And there's the camera I'm recording on. This button here, which I'm covering the camera with the lines around it, switches you from the forward-facing camera to the selfie one. The viewfinder does just that. So the frame rate might stink. It's only because it's in viewfinder mode. You hit the camera to take a picture. You hit the camcorder button to start recording video. You got flash here, which works quite well. You can also do that to flip between. And there is the ability by hitting the mode button and dual, you can do both the selfie and regular camera. And this tab here gives you the options of how to do it. Window, stamp, oval, all these weird shapes, fisheye. This is a standard view that it starts with, is that, or you can do the slash mark. Either way works. Actually, I don't want that. So, I decided to take this phone and give it the test that I always give it, is that right here at this house, I go into the basement because there's plenty of light and very dark areas. So what I'm going to present to you right now is a video, well, 2 videos, one going through without the light on and one with the light, and here they are. Alright, this is a video test of the LG G4 smartphone. And the image stabilization's okay, but the thing is, if you have unsteady hands or you move too much, you kind of get this wonky look like I'm doing right now. If I go straight on an object like that and go back and forth like this, it looks like it's wobbling. That's because there's almost no fisheye whatsoever, and those are the neighbor's dogs that are very annoying. So you can see light and dark. I mean, this is kind of a hard setup here because we got sunlight and shadow, and as we go along like so, pretty good. Say hi to the dogs. I've also noticed the megapixel count isn't exactly the highest. But then again, it's a mobile phone camera. They're not meant to replace an actual digital camera, DSLR, or a camcorder in general. It's just a good backup tool. Anyway, very quick change around right there. We know it does well in the sun. And yes, my current landlord's going to be fixing this place up. And the shadow's not too bad. But the thing we want to check is, how does it do in dark areas? We're going to go in the basement, which, by the way, this is a, contrary to belief of some tenants, this is public domain. Because I need to access this if my electrical panel went out. Very low bridge. Old houses. Actually, I'm looking at this and it's not looking too bad. Trust me, this is actually fairly clean compared to the previous neighbor. And they also tried to use tarping to keep the heat in during the winter. That chimney shows up pretty well. Can we see the back wall? Not as good as the human eye, but not bad. Definitely not as good as the human eye, but this is not bad at all. And how does it do in low light? This is also a test that I normally do, right here in this basement. Yeah, it is pretty, what you would expect. Now, I'm not sure if the display is showing things properly, but here we are. It does pretty much show up pretty much the way it's supposed to. And here's pretty much the reason why this is a public place, because if any of our apartments, 1, which is directly above us, 4, which is, actually 4 is directly above us, 1 is just to the right, 3 is across from me, and that's mine. Huh, that's ancient. Ancient relic there. So, yeah, it looks like it does pretty well. I mean, yeah, I wish you could turn off image stabilization if you don't like the wonky look. From what I'm seeing, it's not too bad. Now, I'm surprised this hasn't been brought up as a code violation. Again, the new landlord probably doesn't know that this is here. The old landlord couldn't have cared less. Sorry about that. Yeah, I can't really see much of anything, but then again, I can see the lamp. I mean, it's not really showing up, but that's extreme dark, pretty much. It actually does quite well. And as we come out into the day, I'm going to stop this video now and do pictures. Changing over to camera mode. In this slightly dark area, the picture doesn't really look too bad. Very little graininess. However, it's having a hard time picking up the forest green color that's in the tarp on the ceiling. But then again, it is kind of dark. Just like any camera capable of both video and stills, the still camera is picking up the dark spots better. No, lighting hasn't changed at all. This is exactly the same as it was in video. As you can see, the color's starting to get washed out, but you can definitely see more detail, especially in the dark areas. This is the extremely dark area that you couldn't really see in video,
The lamp is definitely clearly visible here, as well as other things, as well as the fire extinguisher. Now, the one thing I've noticed is that there's some sort of weird blue edging along the left and right sides of the photo. But then again, this is extremely dark, and this is likely not going to interfere with any normal photography. Here we are with a 60-watt light bulb, and yes, even to the human eye, it does drop off that quickly from light to dark. It shows up pretty well here. Now we're taking photos with the flash. The flash is variable depending on subject matter within the frame, depends on how bright it goes off. The fire extinguisher, the timber directly in front of me, as well as the water heater, provides enough light that it kind of toned it down a little bit. So everything in the background appears a little darker than you probably would like. But we move around a little bit just to see how much it varies. Although I had to move closer to the lamp in order to get rid of bright objects nearby, you can definitely tell that the flash has gone off much brighter than the previous shot. This is looking the other way with almost no bright objects. As you can see, it is a pretty powerful flash. Once again, we go towards that lamp, this time much closer. And yes, as you can see, even though we're much closer to everything in the back, it appears less bright because the flash does indeed compensate for the general surroundings. You might have also noticed that these pictures were just a little grainy, but then again, as I said, it's a mobile phone camera. What do you expect? Also, this was done in the high def mode. There is a ultra high def mode available as well. So everything would look just that much better if you go with that. I believe Ultra HD is the full-blown 4K resolution.
Alright, one thing I did forget to do, and also I didn't know how to do it quite yet because it was a very new phone when I took that test video, is try the built-in light for video. Again, here we are doing the same thing. It's just an aid, pretty much. It's not doing too bad. Frame rate is still pretty good in the dark. This light definitely is helping. And here we are again in the basement. This time my neighbors are here, and I don't care. Because as I've said, we need access to that stuff. Plus these meters back here. And this light is actually doing a fairly good job. It looks like it's picking up quite well. There's the Home Depot thingy there. Water heater, water tank. And we left a cage in the middle of where we would need to go if we needed access to these meters over there. The back wall is about a good 25 feet away, and we can kind of see that. We're looking at 15 feet away. Not too bad. I mean, it's not really doing a bad job. It lights up quite well. I have to keep talking because there is copyrighted stuff playing, but it's not the kind that I probably will get flagged for. So yeah, I'd have to say that, especially looking back here, that is actually kind of dark stuff there anyway. But yeah, it's doing the job quite well, and I'm quite pleased with how the video camera works. Yeah, for a mobile phone camera, I'm kind of impressed. Again, because of the way the image stabilization works, and the fact that the frame rate is a bit low. Because if we go, like this, you can see how you get the image tends to skew a little bit. It's got a low frame rate. It's 30 frames a second. So you'll get that, you get the jello effect, and also you get shearing on fast movement. Down you go. So, in spite of that, it is pretty good, and I'm quite surprised with the ability to see in the dark. However, when it's in the dark, the color saturation goes away. the forest green tarp that was on the ceiling down there appears brown. But I mean, you know, I'm not looking for anything amazing. The sound quality, well, you know, it's a mobile phone camera, so it's never going to replace a camcorder or a decent point and shoot camera that's capable of video as well. Definitely not a, you know, a DSLR, definitely not. But, you know, for something on the fly, I'm quite impressed with it. And off that goes. So, when I purchased this, now this was very late August 2015. It ran for $665. However, around $650 if you go with the plastic back instead of the leather. Of course, as you're viewing this, the price has probably gone down. And if this has gone down the road long enough where they're no longer selling this, and you want a basic phone that sounds good enough to be a regular camera, function like a good camera and what have not, and not sound and look cheap, this is definitely the phone for you, even if it's a third party, you know, buying through a third party that's ditching it. So yeah, I highly recommend this phone, the LG G4, and again, there's varying models with varying processors and RAM capability and what have not. This particular model, the LG-H810, comes with 3 gigabytes of RAM, and there is 32 gigs of onboard storage. However, it claims that 25 gig is available, but when I hook it up to my computer, I only see 22, which, by the way, this USB cable you can hook up, obviously, to your computer. You can charge it, as well as transfer files. You know what, we can shut this off. Shut it off, just hold it in for several seconds. Then you're given the options here. If it, okay, I thought that would, there we go. You could restart the system if it's acting screwy, or at this point, you can turn on and off airplane mode so you don't have to run the radio equipment to do all that, you know, the stuff a phone normally would. So off it goes. It powers off fairly quickly as well. Now, they do have a program on this phone in which you can sync up your phone with your computer. I don't even bother with that. I'm old school, so I just plug this in and just access it like a thumb drive or external storage. So it's bloatware. There's certain functions you probably could use it for. Personally, I don't really need them, so you can run it as flash drive. So that's pretty much the tour of my LG G4 smartphone. Again, all the specs are in, well, the links to the specs are in the comments because there's just too much there. It's a high-end product. It's supposed to be the biggest, the baddest, and the fastest thing available, or one of them. It's supposed to be superior to any Samsung product that came out when this was released. So again, that's my review. And one of the nice other features that it has before I sign off is there is a very slight curve to it, as you can see. I'm not talking about the bottom. I mean, that curve makes it a little more comfortable to hold, but the actual phone itself curves. As you can see in my reflection, or the camera's reflection, you can see it looks long, the lens looks elongated, but then when I flip it this way, it looks like it's squashed in. But when you're viewing videos and using the phone, I have not, it's not really noticeable at all. So with all that being said, now I'll finally say it. That is the end of my review of the LG G4. I'm quite satisfied with it. Hope they Hope they fix the little OpenGL or graphics glitch. Or maybe Minecraft will fix that. I don't know which end it really is on. It's most likely the phone's end, because everybody else has no issue with it. I only, like I said, because that's the most popular game available and you're thinking of downloading it, you just want to be aware of that issue. That's the only reason why I chose to point that one out. So that's it. Georgia551 saying, hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.